And that moves us, it's hot in here, guys. That moves us to our discussion agenda, number 14. And a discussion of strategic plan amendments for the 2022, 2023 to 2026 to 2027, right? Yes. Exhibit E. That was a mouthful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. We have Dr. Holden who is here. You know, we're guided here in School District 5 by a strategic plan, which you've just outlined. So thank you for doing that. And but as it is, there is a need for amendments, adjustments, and I once heard a person say sometimes you have to pivot. So tonight we're going to hear from Dr. Holden, kind of share with us those adjustments that are necessary and to get your input and approval before we move forward with the recommendation that are coming forward on tonight. Dr. Holden.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Good evening. As Dr. Harris mentioned, we're here tonight with the amendments to the strategic plan for our submission that will occur here in a few weeks, pending board approval. And with that, I'd like to remind everybody of a few things. And as we go through this, we'll be talking about our strategic plan requirements as well as our process, the goals, the strategies, the action steps and implementation, and the annual revision here. The action steps are listed in the board packet there. We provided that document that goes through each area of the strategic plan, lists off the goals and the strategies, as well as the action steps associated with each one. This is part of our annual requirements under the law. We are required to prepare annual updates to our strategic plan. We have to submit those updates to the South Carolina Department of Education by April 30th, and those plans go into effect for July 1st of the subsequent year. Our strategic plan is required to have at least 3 areas that you see here: school climate, student achievement, teacher administrator quality. In addition, every district is required to have a gifted and talented plan, and our plan, our GT plan, has been part of our strategic plan since 2018 as part of our annual submission to the state. We began the current strategic plan back in 2021 with the needs assessment, with the vision and goal setting, and the mission setting. We then engaged in the strategy development process in fall of 2021. That led to the action step development, and now we are in the implementation, progress monitoring, reflection, and revision phase. That'll be the phase that we remain in through 2026-27. And what that process looks like is that we've utilized data to determine our strengths, set the vision and mission, identify needs of the district. We've then set goals and strategies which build on the strengths and address the needs, developed and implemented action steps. We're now in this progress monitoring reflect stage, and then ultimately we revise and repeat. As we progress monitor, we're looking for other steps we could take that will further assist the district in reaching its 5-year goals. With that, we have school climate goals. The school climate goals are to maintain a safe and secure environment focused on the social and emotional growth and development of students. And with that, we're relying on 3 key measures: the Parent, Student, and Teacher Survey from the South Carolina Department of Education. It's an annual survey. We're actually administering it now to all parents, students, and teachers. The window is open through spring break. We've actually had great parent turnout for that survey so far this year. District 5 accounts for about 2% of all the students in the state, but we account for 12% of all parent responses as of this morning. So we really have outstanding turnout on the parent survey, but that survey is the one that is tied to our goals here for the strategic plan. Our students and teachers are also currently in the process of taking that survey for 2024. With that, you can see where we stood at the end of the 2023 school year. 89.4% of parents were satisfied with the social and physical environment. The incremental measure there was 88.82. We then had 81.8% of students with satisfaction with the social and physical environment, and the incremental measure there was 84.14. And then with teacher satisfaction with the social and physical environment, the incremental goal was 92.7, and the actual numbers from last year were 89.6. The school climate strategies are remaining the same this year. The action steps we've updated along with underneath those strategies, but the strategies are staying the same. Again, there are some specific action steps that have been updated there, things like our emphasis on capturing kids' hearts, or the indicators of implementation. When I spoke to you in October, I mentioned the work we were doing to better utilize our data to determine how we were progressing through the strategic plan, how we were progressing towards our goals. Many of the updates you're going to see are in that section there for school climate as we work to kind of standardize what the indicators of implementation look like. With student achievement, the goal is to provide a challenging curricula focused on the academic development and college and career readiness of all students. And we've got multiple goals there. We have a goal focused on the growth of our students as measured by the NWEA MAP growth assessment. We've got a graduation rate goal, and we've got a college or career readiness goal. And you can see the years there. I'll adjust that when we come back to you in 2 weeks. But the last year, the 22-23 school year, our median conditional growth percentile for students was 61, and the incremental measure that we were shooting for there was 55. That was in math, and you can see that in reading, the incremental mark we were shooting for there was 56, and we were actually at a 57. When we look at graduation rate, the mark that we were shooting for 22-23 was 90.28, and the actual data was 89%. And with college and career readiness, we were aiming for 78%, and we reached a mark of 80.2%. The strategies here remain the same as well. Just like in school climate, our strategies are the same. The action steps have been updated. Some of the steps that you would see there, for example, we just were awarded a new round of MSAP funding for our magnet programs. So some of those items have been updated. And again, we've made an intentional emphasis on our indicators of implementation. With teacher administrator quality, the goal is to recruit, retain, and develop a highly effective, diverse staff as measured by our teacher retention rate, the percentage of teachers who are satisfied with current working conditions, and the percentage of teachers who agree that there are relevant professional development opportunities offered at their school. As with the school climate goals, these goals also come from the annual State Department survey. Again, that is the survey that is currently being administered in our schools to parents, students, and teachers. In this case, the teacher goal is the one we're focused on there. You can see our teacher retention rate data is missing for this year. That is due to an error in the school report card that we uncovered in November and have been working with the state to resolve since then. And I'll defer to Dr. Turner and Dr. Ross if there are questions about that part. You can see where we were with the percentage of teachers who are satisfied with current working conditions. The incremental goal was 91.16, and the actual data is 86.4. And the percentage of teachers who agree there are relevant professional development opportunities, the incremental goal was 92.38, and last year we were at 90.7%. The strategies here also remain the same, but we've added a couple actions underneath these steps, including an emphasis on the Call Me Mister program for some of our specific actions in the teacher admin quality section. With our GT goals, we're using the same idea behind the student achievement goals where we have a focus on growth. Here, the growth focus is on students who begin the year at the 90th achievement percentile or higher, wanting to ensure those students are growing compared to similar scoring students. You can see we also have a goal of maintaining an advanced placement passage rate of 68% or higher. And you can see we also have a goal of increasing the proportion of students who are coded as Black or African American, Hispanic or Latino, or 2 or more races who are participating in AGP honors, AP, IB, or dual enrollment courses. We want to increase each of those marks, the total mark, by 10% in each of the grade level configurations by the end of the cycle. And here you can see where we were at the end of the 22-23 school year, with 64 being the mark that we reached for mathematics, 47 being the mark we reached for reading, and then our advanced placement passage rate being 75.9%. You can also see where we were in terms of the proportion of students being served in our AGP honors, AP, IB, and dual enrollment courses. The students who are from our traditionally underrepresented groups in those classrooms being 19.7% in grades 3 to 5, 37.7% of those students being served in grades 6 through 8, and 44.7% of those students being served in grades 9 through 12. In this area, we do see a change in our GT strategies. We condensed some of the strategies through the leadership of Ms. Lisa Duda and Ms. McCaskill and the input of the stakeholders who served on the GT team. It was determined that some of the strategies were redundant and there was a need to pare down the strategies from 8 to 6. With that, we still maintain a high number of actions. It was just a matter of streamlining the placement of those things and collapsing some of the actions that were viewed as redundant. And for more information on that, if there are questions, I'll turn to Ms. McCaskill. But here you can see our 3 strategies here that focus on the curriculum for our GT students. Looks like we've got one error there, I apologize. And then you can see we've got strategies in the next phase focused on opportunities for our students in a GT classroom. Each of our action steps, or each of our strategies, I should say, is led by a member of the district administration, at least one member of the district administration. They're responsible for the development of the action steps as well as the implementation of the action steps during the year. They're responsible for making revisions and meeting with stakeholder committees about those as well. But the action steps are the key details of the strategic plan. They are the specific things we do to reach those goals. Here you can see the listing of the folks who lead each element of our strategic plan. You can see it goes all the way from partnering, engaging with families, all the way down to our GT section. Some folks occupy multiple roles. They lead multiple strategies within the district. For example, Jennifer Felkel, Sheila Nabinet, Kelly Brown, who you heard from earlier, all lead different parts of it, as well as Melanie Cohen and Lisa Duda, who lead different parts of the plan, lead multiple strategies. The document that we brought before you tonight in the board packet contains the updates of the action steps that have been prepared by those folks in collaboration with their stakeholder committees. We brought it tonight for discussion, and our intention is to bring it back with any other revisions at the March 25th board meeting and then seek your approval at that time. We hope to seek your approval at that time so that we can then finalize those updates and take them back to the State Department of Education prior to the April 30th deadline. Now, revisions will occur after that. This is part of the ongoing process because the budget cycle has to be approved. The budget has to be approved, and as the budget is approved and other priorities are laid out, we then make changes to our strategic plan as well. At this time, I'll turn it back to Dr. Ross and Dr. Harris for any questions that we may have.
We stand for any questions on the revisions.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Holden? All right. You were very thorough, so no one had any questions, Dr. Holden. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Holden.
All right. Well, that brings us to item 15 on our discussion agenda, the discussion of potential bond referendum projects and estimates. Dr. Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board and our community. We are, let's put up the presentation here. This is our discussion of the referendum projects and estimates. I want to outline just a proposed decision timeline so that we're all on the same page. Our plan has always been called Fix and Feel. Fix and Feel for School District 5 without increasing the tax rate. If you can advance the slide for me. And so our proposed timeline is we have been talking a lot about the filling of the school with the zoning and rezoning plans, and we want to thank the public for their input. They have given us a lot of feedback. We are working that feedback into revisions. Part of those revisions, as we look at proximity, particularly in that Valentine area of Twin Gates Road and Marina Road and A.J. Amick Road. Those are three areas that have brought up some great points in terms of things that we can do to revise that. So it's our goal to bring the new field plan at the April 22nd board meeting. However, the actual referendum consists of the projects, and so we want to use the March 11th and March 25th as discussion of the projects to continue those discussions through the April 22nd and May 6th with a decision from the board at the May 20th. So it gives us 5 meetings to talk about these projects as we begin with today. So next slide, please. And so if you can advance, you could see that the construction projects, thank you. The construction projects and estimates that we'll talk today, totaling $240 million of issuance. And then on April 22nd, we will present the new rezoning maps based on the outcome of a passed or failed referendum. And so, again, I want to thank the community for their feedback. So as we talked about earlier, how we started this process out. We commissioned MPS to do the facilities conditions assessment with the health and safety, building envelope, mechanical, electrical and plumbing, site condition, and interiors. We understand we have over 11,000 incidences to address. Our combination of annual capital and our bond and our annual maintenance over time is how we tend to address all of these, plus ongoing things that are happening in our school district. Tonight I want to talk about the proposed referendum projects, and I'm going to go through each one of these. The first one are security upgrades to include cameras and secure vestibule entrances that have not been identified in previous 8% funds. New Dutch Fork Elementary School, to renovate the existing Dutch Fork Elementary School into the Rich Lex Education Center. Renovations and reconditioning to Crossroads Intermediate, Dutch Fork High School, Dutch Fork Middle, Dutch Fork Elementary, Harbison West Elementary, Irmo High, Irmo Middle School, Nursery Road Elementary, and Seven Oaks Elementary. These are the schools that are identified as twos with a composite of a 2 in the MPS report. The Digital Solutions and Artificial Intelligence Lab at Dutch Fork High School, Construction Infrastructure Workforce Development Lab at the Kate Center, enclosing the classroom walls at Harbison West and Nursery Road Elementary Schools, a small business incubator slash student center cafeteria at Irmo High School, the district office and professional development building, a fine arts center at Chapin High School. And after getting feedback from our community tours about zoning, looking at extending classroom wings at Chapin Elementary School and Lake Murray Elementary School. And we want to, this is a new project that I have introduced as a climate control practice facility. So I want to start off with the security upgrades and cameras and vestibule entrances. As you know, board has approved us to move forward with security vestibules at some of our schools. We want to make sure all of our schools have these. There are some buildings that you can go from, quote unquote, the street right into the reception area. So it's our intent to create a space between the public and the reception area. While all of our schools do have the open gates before you can get into access to the school, there is not that security vestibule before reception at every site. Dutch Fork Elementary School, I just want the public to know that we have met with the architectural firm that is doing the Broad River Road expansion project. That is scheduled to begin moving utilities a year from now, March of 2025. We see significant impacts to the front of Dutch Fork Elementary School. As you can see in this picture, those new rope markers are actually behind the flagpole on in that Broad River Road widening project. And so it is our intent to build a new Dutch Fork Elementary School. It also flows within our rezoning map as we look at those impacts to that existing site. And so we have done a conceptual. This is a conceptual of what the new Dutch Fork Elementary School could look like, operating on the same model and concept that you see at a school like Oak Point, where you can see down the multiple wings from one vantage point. So again, this is again a conceptual of what the new Dutch Fork Elementary could look like. Again, part of it is we identified all of those schools that had a score of 2. This is a composite score of 2. MPS has given estimates of what it would cost to bring those schools out of 2s into the 4 range. Now, people ask, well, why not 5? If you look at the identification of a 5, that is brand new, so our goal was to bring those from 2 to 4, so that is a large part of this referendum, identifying those items in the MPS for those schools at a 2. The question is why Irmo High School is still listed. We want to hold before we demo the old building, and so that still will have to be have money to address the old building. So I know in earlier talks we were going to demo the old building. I just want to keep that structure up in the event we would need that in the future. We talked in our instructional update about the digital solutions and artificial intelligence lab at Dutch Fork High School. This is our goal to add to that STEM program, so that's included in the referendum. Here on site, we have in that $10.5 million the land purchase as well as the funds to add our workforce development lab for the Kate Center. You see 2 line items. We don't have a picture of what Nursery Road and Harbison West look like now, but those are all the pod systems. And so when those schools were built, you have the whole 4th grade in a pod. And so you can see or hear in multiple classrooms. And so if you are familiar with Chapin Elementary or Leapart Elementary, that's how the design of Harbison West and Nursery Road would look. We have the district office. This is one of the worst rated facilities that we have in the fleet. Now the property easement is not like at Dutch Fork Elementary. While the easement will expand, there will not be a significant road construction coming to the front of the district office. However, there will be a new road that would be leading into Dutch Fork Road. But our goal is to move to a facility on the existing site because we would still need some of the facilities that we have up on the hill, our maintenance shed. And so as a result, this is a conceptual of what the new administrative and professional development building would look like with the office area for board meetings, for teacher trainings, would be kind of in the lower area here. And so this is another elevational conceptual of what that building would look like. And so that would be on the existing plot of land. At Chapin High School, we're looking now at the Columbia Avenue view. This is looking above Chapin High School. The red dot that says Chapin High School is actually the entry or front office. And then there's a gap between the academic building and the Fine Arts Center. It is there that we have this conceptual of the auditorium that would go between that space. And these are front elevations of what the Fine Arts Center could look like. And so this is a conceptual of the interior of that space that was done as well. We have received great feedback on our rezoning plan, particularly with this plan, does it handle the 10-year or 20-year lines? And we knew that there is significant growth growing out in Chapin. Would there need to be a new elementary school, thus changing the lines? And so we looked at an opportunity to maintain our existing Chapin lines by adding on to the existing schools. And so, again, we don't have a conceptual of this, but we do have kind of a rough estimate of adding on to Lake Murray Elementary School. Again, about 20,000 square feet of additional space. If you're familiar with the site, it is where we have the portables, and off of kind of on that Three Dog Road side. Those portables would be moved to more of the playground area while we would build additional square footage onto Lake Murray. We also see additional growth going into the Chapin Elementary area, and so in that area we would add about 16,000 square feet for a new wing on the back of Chapin Elementary School. Again, this would allow us as growth, according to the NPS projections, hits that top number, to be able to assume that growth with our existing elementary schools. And then the last item in our earlier additions, we had talked about athletic upgrades of press boxes, and I've changed that to more of a climate-controlled practice facility. And the reason, and this is a conceptual, this photo is a conceptual what the facility could look like. As the goal is climate control, I want to make you familiar of something called the wet bulb globe temperature. The National Weather Service identifies the wet bulb globe temperature as a measure of heat stress on the body. It takes in multiple factors such as temperature or humidity, wind speed, sun angle, cloud cover, and gives us, according to the high school league, a range in which students can operate outside. Normal activities being around 82 degrees on the wet bulb globe temperature. Over 82 of a wet bulb, we have to start making modifications to practices. At 92, there are no outdoor activities. So the goal of this is, as our summers get hotter and that heat stress becomes more of an issue, is to provide all three high schools with a space that we could control that climate to more of a manageable and safe area. So this would not be any outdoor activity. So that's not just whether it's band or football or baseball. The goal is to get the students in the climate facility. And so looking at the estimated cost of these projects, these are, again, our estimates. And again, I say these are estimates at this time. As we go through it, we would need a third-party estimator to get us, closer to the number. But you can see our estimates for each of these, whether using existing square footage or costs that we have seen from similar projects. Or our NPS estimates, that is how we've derived these numbers. So I know that's a lot of information, and so right now we're going to pause. Again, this is our first conversation. I want to get the initial feedback as we prepare for our second conversation on proposed referendum projects and estimates.
Dr. Ross, I have a question about the list that's right here. Is this list prioritized based on what is most important for the district and what project would be spent first?
Yes, we have, out the gate, we've talked about 1, 2, 3, 4 were the most important projects to begin. So that would be security upgrades, new Dutch Fork Elementary, renovate Rich Lex, all Category 2 buildings. Those were the top 4 priorities.
So under number 4, where you're including Nursery Road and Harbison West, why are enclosing the classrooms not part of their renovations? Because, and the reason I'll say this is for years, I have heard, and I have visited those schools, and the pod model is very distracting to elementary school children. And to me, I mean, I understand, we have a lot of important issues here. But to me, the 2 most important issues on this list is that. So I don't understand why they're separated from number 4. I think they're all important. I mean, I really do. But I have those 2 issues at those 2 schools. I have heard from parents and from teachers and from student teachers, and I mean that is a big deal. And so those are like issues that when we're talking about where we're spending money, I just need to be able to answer why that's not a priority.
Yeah, and so to be fair, like you said, all of these are priority. If we issue 240, all of them are going to be done. I guess our thing is just kind of timelining it out. The longest piece that's going to take place are going to be these wall projects. You know, I think when we look at issuance of the 240, and Marty, you can help me, I think the first issuance is about 80 million.
It would definitely be split in multiple issuances. Right. I mean, we would not need 240 all at one time. So I would imagine it would be somewhere in that 80 million to begin with, yes.
So in terms of if we had the money today, I think these are the first 4 lines are items we would immediately have to get off the ground with. What's going to take a little bit more planning is putting up walls on the existing building. If you remember the initial plan, we had a swing space where we could get the kids and the faculty out of that building and just fully renovate that school. This plan does not have a swing space, so what it's going to end is actually building these walls while the building is operating. So that, while extremely important, will take a little bit more planning and time to get up off the ground.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Satterfield?
Dr. Ross, looking at, back to number 4, I guess, since that's the most glaring, with all the schools that are listed there, what kind of, I mean, I know that summer is not enough time to do all that needs to be done with all these schools. I mean, how, is there will there be an attempt to try to address as many as we can at one time? I know you have to go through the bid process and all that, but that's, I mean, and there's no question, I've visited a lot of these schools and I've been around for a long time, and I know that a lot of these schools are just flat worn out. But that's a lot of schools to address at one time, that's for sure. That would be, I don't say disrupted in a sense, but they're going to go through certainly go through a difficult time through all this.
And that's kind of going back to our earlier conversation about the 8%, right? It's a lot to do. It's a lot of need. We packaged this together as a $40 million deal because it would be, we could at one point have a lot of money to attack all of those problems versus our 8% capacity. So it is a big deal. I mean, you could do smaller, you could do smaller contracts and not do it all as one, and maybe that would move it faster. But this would be able to secure the funds specifically for those projects there.
Yeah. Now, we're not talking about just fixing roofs and air conditioning units, and we're talking about wholesale reconditioning with painting and floors and plumbing repairs and sewage issues. And
so a lot of the items that you'll see in Category 4 are 1s, 2s, and 3s from the MPS report. So if you look at the schools that we have to come back and put the walls, then so now we also have to get a bunch of other things up to compliance. The restrooms have to be ADA compliant. The ramps have to be ADA compliant. So there was a lot of footwork we're going to have to do before we install the walls. But it does, it covers everything that was a 1, a 2, or 3 on the MPS report.
And I just had another question. Dr. Ross, I know that Leapart and some of the other schools went through that process of adding the walls that Ms. Hines was talking about. Do you remember how long it took to go through that process? I know that when I visited Mr. Norman, that was one of the first schools I visited was Harbison West, and well, he was really anxious for that to happen for his school. I mean, he's not here any longer, but do you remember how long that process took?
That was before my time.
Good answer. Anybody? Mr. Wiseman?
No, sir, I wasn't focusing on that at the time, so I could not tell you, but I can find out and get back to you. Yeah, I know it was monumental because we had to put portables in some cases to keep up with the school operation. So we'd have to look at, it's going to be more than the summertime, I can tell you that. I think it was 6 months, 8 months, but I'd have to check.
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Huddle?
I had a question about the Chapin Fine Arts Auditorium because we had designated the space over at Palmetto Woods or whatever it's called. So why was the filling in that, which I think is where a lot of kids eat lunch, isn't it? That it's not that space, it's further downhill?
Well, I guess when I was there, it was on the backside of the school.
Okay, so I was just curious why we looked at that as opposed to the area that had been previously designated.
That's a very good question. When we looked at the size in which we were building this, we weren't building kind of like the one we have at Irmo, which would have been much bigger. The issues that we're going to have there is right now we have a permeable parking space there.
Yes, sir, and the building itself, the Palmetto Woods building, is going to have to go away when they build the new road too. So
Right.
we're losing a lot of that property.
So once that road swings around that corner, we're going to lose a lot of the Columbia Avenue expansion process. It's going to look very different over in that space. The other thing is that we pick up is, and if I go back here, you are actually right next to the Fine Arts Center here. So if you have a band concert or orchestra concert, theater, you're actually in the closest proximity to come to the back of the house for that. So it is almost like if it was naturally designed, that would be a great space to move all of your art material right to the back of the house or back of stage and be able to hold your performances versus moving. Right now, Chapin High School is like an aircraft carrier. It's very long. So having it in the other space, that's a lot of movement of the equipment where you're actually almost tied in right to the existing Fine Arts Center.
Can I ask a question, piggyback, just because it's about, I had a question about that as well, about the fact that Fine Arts Center was moved into Chapin, and we had designated that Palmetto Woodworks building originally for the maintenance department. And then the Fine Arts Center, if I'm remembering this correctly, we had talked about moving the maintenance department there because they were out of space where the district office is. And then the Fine Arts Center came up to be put on when we were talking about the bond the last time. And the location was determined that it would be best there because of a parking lot or something to that effect. If the plan now is to have the Fine Arts Center attached like into the school, is the Palmetto building going to be the maintenance department? Are we going to utilize that for the maintenance department? Because at the time, if I'm remembering correctly, there was a big conversation about the lack of space and facility use for the maintenance department, and that was a big concern.
The last conversation I had with the gentlemen who are designing that, we're going to lose the whole building. We thought we were just going to it's going to come down the road, but you're just going to have to lose the whole building. We're going to lose a lot of the parking that's along by the tennis courts based on the current design as far as the road goes through. So,
So they're just demoing the entire building?
yes, ma'am. They're going to have to, come up with a plan to, obviously to pay us, we'll have to bring it to.
I was about to say, are we receiving compensation for that?
Yes, ma'am. That's why right now it's being used as storage as we, address issues of moving furniture and things like that.
So we're going to charge them about $50 million to demo that? I'm just kidding.
I cannot disclose that.
I'm kidding, Ian. All right, Ms. Huddle, sorry.
Thank you for that. If you go back to the list of the projects for a minute. Okay. I can't help but say it. I'm still concerned about Chapin High School and the growth. And I know that the plan to put people at Spring Hill, but I think making the elementary schools even bigger is actually, it's I think of a snake swallowing a pig. And I'm afraid that it's actually going to make the problem worse. And also, I've looked at the enrollment in that attendance cluster, and it already jumps a lot at high school. And I don't know, but it looks like people are moving into that area when their kids are like in middle school, about to start high school. I'm just worried. This is a whole lot of money, and we're still not addressing Chapin High School. And then the other concern I have is just, I mean, if we had done that and we wanted practice facilities, great. But when you don't have enough space for your kids to take academics, it concerns me that we're talking about building practice facilities.
I'll just say this in response. I think we have to be very careful when you prioritize arts, academics, and athletics. I could be disagreed with, but I think all of them are equal in terms of the educational program we deliver. I just think this is going to be more and more of an issue for us as we look at these summers, and that's why I want to give fair consideration. I know it's new, I know it's novel. People haven't seen these. We're doing a lot of investigation on that, but I want to put us in position because we save kids' lives with arts, academics, and athletics. That's part of the academic or the educational program that we have. So everything that makes it on the list is a priority. I think what will happen as we get closer to real or more fixed estimates, we're going to have to make some critical decisions. But it is. We can talk about a new school in Chapin, but we don't have the data for that right now. I was looking at the best decision we have with the data we have now. The new wings at these elementary schools are addressing the portables that you have at these elementary schools. I mean, those classes are still outside. So it is not like it's swelling up the school. It is addressing the current portable growth that we have at those schools. So this is that's a good point to bring up, but those schools are still the highest use portables that we have. So building the wings on there would be a way to address that.
Dr. Ross, I thought, I could be wrong, but I thought when we were discussing putting on classroom wings to Lake Murray and Chapin Elementary, those discussions centered around the fact that we're changing the intermediate model, and that fifth grade will now be at Lake Murray and at Chapin, and they both do have portables, but now they're going to have another grade, so that was the need for that expansion. So that was another question that I had, like why that's at the bottom of the list, because from my understanding, we're switching those models in 26, 27, which means that those are priority items that would need to start construction relatively soon.
Great question.
Okay.
So the reality is we can make the move with the existing portables. If we made the moves, we would just use the portables. So we could still make that. Expanding the building gives us the options of making the moves without the portables. And so that's the goal, is to have those there. But if worst came to worst, there is no referendum or one fails, we would have to make that move, and then even bringing 5th grade down to Piney Woods, Lake Murray, Chapin, and and Chapin, but we would be using the existing portable classrooms on site.
Ms. Barnhart, I saw your hand up.
Quick question about the Digital Solutions Lab at Dutch Fort. What is SDE?
I'm sorry, the State Department of Education is developing that course, and Ms. McCaskill, is there anything you want to add to that?
That's correct. They're developing the curriculum that goes with that course now, and there's just a lot of pieces and parts still moving with that, but we're looking at all of the new curriculum that will go along with that program.
And then a question on the practice facilities. A lot of these other ones, you had kind of a conception of where they would be. Where would you put them?
Great question. We'll get a map for the next meeting to kind of articulate where they would go. But to be familiar with the campus, at Irmo High School, the practice facility would be across St. Andrews and that behind the bus lot. There's fields back there. At Chapin High School, it is taking the existing middle field between the soccer and the parking lot. If you're familiar with what I'm talking about, they have that small field there. It would go there. And at Dutch Fork High School, it would be, Dave, what do we say? Their current practice field, right? We will bring the maps down, the aerials there. Good point.
I will say, Dr. Ross, speaking of the digital solutions and artificial intelligence lab and the construction workforce development lab, I mean, I think that those programs are exciting and great, and I'm supportive of them. I think it's important for economic development in our state. I think that they're great. I'm a little concerned about where they're prioritized for a couple of reasons, and Ms. McCaskill just highlighted one of them. One of these programs is still in the development stage at the State Department of Education. We don't really know how much it's going to cost to operate the programs. This is just for like the capital expenses. We don't have any really information about how much it is going to cost for those programs to operate. And again, I'm going back to looking at the two renovations at the elementary schools and some of these other items that are impacting classrooms, especially at the elementary school level across our district. I'm concerned about where they are, not necessarily that they're on the list, but we don't have a lot of information about those programs, and we're talking about spending money in a bond referendum without knowing all of the nuts and bolts. So I'm just expressing that concern. I mean, I don't know what everybody else thinks about that, but Mr. Satterfield.
Yeah, Dr. Ross, the construction, I'm excited about that program too. I think that's really something that's needed. Where will that lab be located, and what does the $10 million include? Is it just the building? Does it include heavy equipment or?
Yeah, we would like to reserve the location for executive session under property sales, but we have identified a site for sale.
Okay.
The building, do you, Ms. McCaskill, have information on that?
Right. That amount includes a regular brick and mortar building. In fact, we were just talking about this earlier before the meeting, that possibly may need to be more of like a metal building versus the brick and mortar building, which would actually reduce that cost a little bit. But those were all tentative estimates, and that was building a regular brick and mortar building for that.
So that didn't include any equipment or other things that are be necessary for the program?
No, the CTE funds would actually provide the funding for any equipment that was needed.
Yeah. Have we visited any other high schools that have programs like this to get a kind of an idea on the cost estimate of this?
Mr. Priggy's in the process now of working with Mr. White and with another association as well. He's in the process of talking with them and asking their opinion on some of he's talked with USC just about, like you're talking about, the AI. USC has a program that they're looking into with some engineering that goes kind of into that with Dutch Fork High School as well, also with Spring Hill High School. So he is talking to lots of different organizations to get input on that.
Well, and I think it's an admirable endeavor. I do. But like Ms. Hines was saying, it'd be nice to have a little clearer understanding of what that involves, is if it's just the building or, equipment and all that. I know you all probably looked into already about instructors and things like that and those kind of costs, because that'll be a reoccurring cost, certainly.
Correct. So while these don't represent maintenance of the facilities and represents the facilities, but one of the things that we're looking at is just kind of who in the industry has it. Not seeing a lot of this in schools. This is kind of us leading the way in that. However, Bob White from Walker White has been doing this for the last 12 years. And so that's kind of our consultant on he has an apprenticeship shop where he trains the students there. What would that look like as building a JV program? So we can definitely bring more detail to it. What we'll see is our top end, and as we move closer to and we saw that from the Irma High School project. We started out with a vision, and then we moved closer and closer to design. And as we got more to those details, the numbers started to branch out, to narrow in. So we think these are all top end that we feel like we can get done, and we'll continue to add more detail at the next meeting for these.
Ms. Huddle.
Clarification and a question. So clarification, because I question the indoor practice facilities versus the needs at Chapin High School does not mean I don't believe in athletics. I played basketball in high school. I was bad at it. And my kids you played an instrument, you played a sport. But my question is for so we'll go on the art side now. On the Fine Arts Center, at the Fine Arts Center at Chapin, how many seats does it hold? So that's my first question. And how many seats is this $21.6 million based on for the new one? So there's the current black box, I think they call it, at Chapin. It's got a little small seating area. How many does that hold?
Yeah.
And then what's the projection for this?
Alan, do you have the number of seats in this one?
Is it less than 100?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
It's tiny, isn't it?
No, you're talking
I
about the
can
black
tell you
box or the?
What they call, it says Fine Arts Center right now on the outside of the building.
Yes, let
but
me make a clarification. Thank you. That's a very.
Dr. Ross, if I remember right, it seats about 100 kids in that little, the drama lab, as they call it.
The drama lab, right.
Yeah.
We have, if you drive past Chapin High School, on the side, there's little words, it says Fine Arts Center. And it is, right. It is, we have two former principals of that school there. It is not the auditorium inside of there. The only space you have was a drama room, which is converted to a black box. While I don't have the official number of seats in there, it is less than 150. I think maybe.
Sir, I think it's right at 100.
100, okay.
Pretty close, yes, sir.
But what we're proposing here, I thought we had the number of seats when we talked about
For the new
for the
part,
new space.
we based on 500, I think it was. Is that correct, Alan? For the new, yeah.
I know the goal was to make sure an entire class could sit in that space. So if I wanted to have the freshmen come in and talk to all the freshmen, or if I wanted to have all the juniors, seniors, we could have a class meeting there.
And what we have to look at is, because we're actually squeezing this in between two buildings, we don't have the ability to expand. We also got to look at, obviously, Columbia Avenue. We're actually losing part of that too, so we can't go too far out as well. So we're constrained as space, But the gentleman that we looked at for the conceptual, we were trying to look at right around 500.
And a follow-up question, kind of similar to Ms. Hines about the construction. Would this include, because there's a lot of audio AV type stuff in a fine arts center, does this include that as well, or would that be separate?
So basically what I did was spoke with my counterpart at District 2 because they just built a new CFA district office facility in West Columbia, and I took the price per square foot and did the math to come to that number. And then we added about 20% with soft costs to it to cover any other expenses that may arise.
So that would be a sound and lighting package?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else, Mr. Satterfield?
One little bug for you, because I dealt with the one at Dutch Fork High School a lot. When you do the lighting system, get one that's on a pulley that you can raise and lower the lights, because you're constantly changing those bulbs, and the worst thing you can do is to have to bring that lift every time you've got to go through that process. Drove me nuts. So just a little bug.
All right. Anything else? We're on discussion for this, so any other questions regarding this list that we want to drill down on Dr. Ross tonight? Ms. Barnhart?
I just have one more quick one. On the security upgrades, how many of the schools need the vestibule wall versus just upgrading the cameras and the locks, kind of like we did at Irma Middle or Elementary?
You have that, Dave?
I can tell you we've completed already about 6. Jenny and I were talking about that this morning. I'm trying to remember the number. We went to the schools that actually had something there already built in. So it was 6. So we were looking at the ones now who don't have it. What my concern is, like say Lee Park, if you want to put a wall in there, you got to reconfigure that whole front lobby. So Alan has reached out to a vendor that once we get into the details, will allow us to actually put a glass box out in front of it, so we're not having to touch or demo the school to keep the cost down. And then that's going to be your second or your first area to entrance. You'll have a camera on the outside and a box to buzz in, and then go into a second system. So I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I know we've been trying to determine how we want to look at each school. For example, when we looked at Dutch Fork High School, if I go into that front area, I'd have to cover that Dutch Fork logo, and I think Mr. Satterfield would probably understand how important that is to the school itself. So we're still in the planning stage specifically, so I don't have an exact number, but I know we're just kind of looking at each one differently. But we've done 6. We've got 4 we're waiting on quotes. So there's somewhere a number in there that's probably around 12-ish.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Mr. Hogan,
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I have a second. Ms. Snipes, any discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that motion carries 6-0. And we will adjourn until March 25th.